Okay, recapping the challenge we have, it's to predict if a certain customer or passenger in this case did survive the Titanic sinking, right? We have a few different variables here in the data that we hope will predict if someone died or not. For example, the gender. Obviously, we're hoping that ladies and children first, together with the age here, would be something we can see in the data here. That was very prominently featured in movies about the disaster. So that could be a hypothesis that could be true. We can see that later in the model. And there's other variables here, for example, how much you paid. So let's look at the data a little bit. And you can see this is a screenshot from Excel here. You can have the full data set here. This is just a train Excel data spreadsheet. And I would really urge you, this kind of initial data analysis, typically it does make sense to do that in Excel. There are some things that are just easier, especially if you know it's just a one-off task. Don't feel shy of using things like Excel. There is no point in bragging with the fact that suddenly you've got this new Python superpower, right? Use whatever is easiest, but keep in mind the things that you want to repeat later again are typically better to do in a programming language early on. All right, that being said, let's go back into looking at the data we have here, and we'll go through it column by column. First one, passenger ID, is just saying 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. It's going to continue counting for every passenger. We do not expect that this will be able to tell us if a customer survived or not, so we can ignore it. The same goes for the name and the ticket number. And that's very handy, by the way. Typically stuff like the name, very specific addresses, etc. You don't typically need them for your prediction. It's very rare for that to happen. And that's great, because it means typically you don't have privacy concerns on your data. As soon as you have the name or other very specific information about a person, you have to have an infrastructure that can handle the privacy, right? We have that infrastructure, but it will make your projects more complex for deployment. The next variable we have is the status, survived or not. And that we definitely need that, right? That's what we want to predict. We have it available in this data set, but in the other data set, test.csv, we do not know if the customer survives. So we need to predict it for that one. Learning from the train.csv data spreadsheet. The survived data field is also in a beautiful format for a machine. Look at this. 0, 1, 1, 1, 0. That's perfect. Machines love reading like this, right? AI models, they only want numbers, typically. So that works. The passenger class, again, is as a number. Also, it has an ordering. So 1 is better than 2, and 2 is better than 3. So that works. The next one, variable gender here, the sex, is a word. So that's again a bit more tricky. We'll have to do a bit more processing to make it a number. It's going to look quite similar to the survived status later. We have the age, and initially that looks perfect. It's numbers, but then we see, oh, for some people we don't even have the age. It's a missing value. So we need to find a way of handling that. And there's a few actually. And then there's a few more variables which are already good to go. And one last tricky variable, which is the embarked. And that is again a string that we'll have to convert.